Hey, I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Death RX. Death is the prescription. Today we're counting down the 10 best and craziest films involving nurses, patients, doctors, and empty hospitals. Like, for some reason, hospitals are always empty in horror films. Where else are you going to get a list like this but here on High on Horror, bro?
That's fair. And that chuckle was a little weird.
And with us today we have special guest Michael Smallwood, who you all know as the guy in the doctor costume in Halloween Kills. Shane
from Righteous Gemstones.
Right, and you know, the guy that everyone thought was Julian's father in the first film, but he actually wasn't.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Michael's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview. And like always, we're going to start this episode off with a little smoking. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. And now it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode.
I got some Honey Badger Haze. It's also known as just Honey Badger. It's a relatively new sativa dominant, but it's listed as being peppery, citrus, and herbal. I definitely smell like a lemony fruit.
Let me check it out.
I'll pass that over to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the lemon's very prominent. Absolutely. It smells delicious. It's like coated too. It's very fuzzy. Beautiful, beautiful.
Goddamn. Yeah, every time I've went to buy it, it's always been out of stock.
So it's a popular one.
Yeah,
that's why John dies.
Yeah, it's a newer one. That's I finally got my hands on that, so it's pretty damn good though. It definitely kicks a pack, packs a kick, packs a punch, whatever the fuck it is.
It fucked you up already. Dude, did you see? So Jamie Lee Curtis officially signed off on the Halloween franchise. Mm-hmm. Her filming's done. For Halloween Ends, she said farewell to the franchise and said, basically that's it for her. I mean, she said the same thing after Resurrection. This time I believe her, though. I do believe her this time. I think this is it. She is getting a little older, but what do you think?
I mean, did she non-officially say that after the second one? Didn't she kind of allude, everybody kind of thought it was going to be that way with H2O, and then they got her to sign on for Resurrection. She was like, fucking kill me in the first 10 minutes. I'm fucking out of here.
Right.
Only because of her age, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's getting older.
I mean, do we really want to see Jamie Lee back at 80? Trying to fight Michael again?
Well,
it's starting to get a little ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, that's why I think I agree that it should just, it should just end. But it's funny because what happened with Resurrection. I'm sure you've heard the story. I don't know if you listeners out there have heard this, but what happened was Jamie Lee was so sold on H2O and the ending and how Michael Myers dies at the end. And I agree. I thought that was a great ending personally. If there had never been another Halloween movie, I would have been happy with the way that ended. But she wanted that ending so bad. But the studio, the Accords, did not want Michael Myers to die, so the only way that she could have that ending was if she agreed to come back in the sequel. So she said, fine, I'll come back in the sequel, but you got to kill me off right away. I don't want to be a part of the series anymore. So she kind of had to do Resurrection. So I feel like she kind of, it was a give and take. She really didn't want to do it.
Yeah, our buddy Ian we had on when we talked about the Halloween series, on his deep dive, he was saying that originally Jamie Lee signed on if Michael was going to die, and Mustafa Akkad kind of just talked to the producers and was give me a backdoor that I can keep the franchise going after this.
He didn't want that profit to stop dripping in, man.
No. Even as small as they were. I mean, you put a Halloween movie out, and I guess with the exception of H2, since I've been able to see him even the Rob Zombie one, I knew I wasn't going to like it, and I still went and saw it in theaters just because it was a new Halloween.
I mean, I got to be honest, though, with the new Halloween films with 2018 and Kills, I got to say that this is the happiest that I've been with the Halloween series in a long time. I'm happy with the direction it went in. I'm really looking forward to Ends. And John Carpenter said that the idea is to kill the franchise with Ends. Like, that's it. Like, no more Michael Myers. The Halloween franchise is dead. But I mean,
We've heard that before.
do we really think that that's true? I mean, yeah, I think that could be true for now, but nobody's gonna just let Michael Myers die. There is always gonna be a prophet there. There's always a crowd there. I'll give it 20 years, 15, 20 years, he'll be back, even if it's a whole new storyline.
Maybe for the rest of Carpenter's life, the series will be killed off.
I mean, fair enough, and with all due respect.
Yeah, but he's also getting up there as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm still apprehensive about how they're going to end this whole thing.
It's a lot of pressure, man. It's that's you're ending like the most famous slasher franchise.
But then, like, the thing is, like, H2O was definitive.
Yeah, it
and
was.
Like, even if they chopped his head off, like, went that route again, I still feel like I'd be like, I'm not buying it.
Or I'd be like, it's been done before. I feel like at this point, if you're gonna really end it, his death has to be something like special. Like, it can't be a rehash. It can be a homage, but it can't be a rehash.
I need to see it.
Yeah, exactly. I need to see it. Like, do it all. Like, do a H2 and a resurrection, or H2 a homage. Do, like, fucking take his eyes out and then cut it. So do something extreme to make us go like, fuck yeah, like, give us something like that. That would be cool. That would be badass if he lost both eyes and got his fucking head chopped off. There ain't no coming back from that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Unless some Pet Cemetery shit,
Unless
you don't want to go down that road.
unless there's an EMS worker that walks by that he can crush his larynx.
And Jamie Lee can come back for the 10 minutes of the next one.
Yeah, speaking of Carpenter, he's talking about a Thing remake. I mean, not remake, sequel.
It should be called The Things. That'd be cool.
The Things. Or instead of like how is Alien Things?
Yeah. Yep.
But do we really need a sequel?
Do we need a sequel? No, but would I watch a sequel? I mean, yeah.
And like
if Carpenter was involved too, like if he's involved in it as he is in these Halloween movies, I have to watch it. You have to at least give it a chance.
But
right?
Like, he's talking about like directing it, from what I've seen.
I don't know. If he has it all depends on the team that's back.
His last couple outings as a director were not good.
Yeah, that's why, no offense to Carpenter, he's our favorite of all time, but you will not find the Ward on our list later in this episode.
No. And, also speaking of him, he said, because they just did the 4K restoration of Escape from LA.
Yeah, right, I just saw that.
And now people are like talking about how Escape from LA is a good film. And Carpenter even said that it's superior to Escape from New York. And there's no way that's true.
It's superior to Escape? Escape from LA is superior. I can't even say that because you took me for a loop there. Escape from LA is better than Escape from New York.
That's what Carpenter said. He said that Escape from LA is the superior film.
There's no, I mean, just the scene where Snake rides the fucking tidal wave next to Steve Buscemi in the car. There's a lot of people I know that like that. That's ridiculous. No, there's no way.
But that is what I think of where I'm like, no.
And I mean, come on, no Donald Pleasance, no Adrienne Barbeau. I mean, really?
Isaac Hayes.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes.
Ernest Borgnine. Mm-hmm. Then there was another guy who was in a bunch of Carpenter films, if I remember it.
Oh God, that dude. He's in Pumpkinhead. I'm drawing blanks right now. The old guy with the beard. Yeah, yeah.
But Snake in Escape from New York has such good lines like fuck your president and fuck your war.
Yeah, and the ending, the total fuck you ending. That whole movie's just punk rock. I feel like Escape from LA was Hollywood.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know why Carpenter's saying that. I think it's just for sales because he likes his money.
Or maybe it's like Halloween's ending. What's the next most profitable movie I have or most popular movie I have that could maybe be a cash in? And I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, you got to see where he's coming from. Cash in, cash out.
Yeah, I think that'll about wrap this up.
What do you got going on for us this week in horror history?
This week in horror history.
All right, so this week for horror history, we don't have too big of a list here, but we have from 1964, The Last Man on Earth,
Oh man, I love The Last Man on Earth. You like that movie?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I've probably the last time I saw it was a kid.
Oh shit, so it's been a while. But do you remember liking it?
I don't remember disliking it,
Okay.
but I honestly don't remember a whole lot from it.
Well, this is my second favorite Vincent Price film after The Abominable Dr. Phibes. That's a classic movie. This was originally adapted from I Am Legend, the story by Richard Matheson, who also wrote other classics like A Stir of Echoes, which would later be made into a movie starring Kevin Bacon called Stir of Echoes, which was amazing. But anyway, after The Last Man on Earth, the story was retold a few times over the years in cinema. There was The Omega Man in 1971. Starring Charlton Heston, and then the Will Smith one that actually went with the actual title, I Am Legend, but was the weakest of the bunch. Last Man on Earth is actually the best and most faithful adaptation of the story.
And 30th anniversary Demonic Toys.
That is just Full Moon Cheese, man. Lots of fun. One of my all-time favorite Full Moon movies for sure.
This Full Moon cornered the market on like killer toys.
Possibly. They haven't done it the best. But they
Well, I'm
definitely
just saying,
they cornered it,
I wasn't judging them. I'm just saying I feel like they have a lot of movies
yeah.
about killer dolls or toys.
Or food, because Ginger Dead Man, and and
Shit, I love
bongs even.
Ginger Dead Man.
There's just any elemental thing, bongs, food. I mean, or just bongs and food and toys and whatever the fuck they can get their hands on. Full Moon will take advantage of it, and Full Moon's always big on showing a lot of nudity too. So I mean, at least they make up for like the bad cinema by throwing in some like visuals.
And from 1975, we have Deep Red.
Oh man, I still think Tenebrae is Argento's best Giallo, but Deep Red has a more brilliant. I mean, it's Deep Red, but with a more brilliant twist, and the psychology goes a lot deeper as well. But Deep Red is a masterpiece and one of the greatest Giallo films ever made. This is in my top 3 films by Argento after Suspiria and Tenebrae. It's a clever film with a lot of gore and good kills. A creepy puppet named Billy. That's where Billy the Puppet from Saw came from, James Wan's nod to Argento. And Wan was heavily influenced by Argento. Mark Daly, David Hemmings, talking to his students in the beginning of the film, is Argento saying to the audience, Deep Red is not going to be neat and tidy. And it's not. It's gritty and it's bloody and it's dark as hell. But there's little things like the symbolism of the close-up of knives, one being big and one being small, representing the child and the mother aspect. You got to love how like pretty the grotesque is in Argento's films. And here's a knowledge nugget for you listeners out there. Amanda Righetti being dunked in the tub almost killed actress Juliana Calandra. She actually passed away in 2018, unfortunately. But she almost died during filming because she wasn't signaling right to tell them that she couldn't breathe. So she didn't take deep enough breaths and almost drowned.
I always like watch stuff in movies with like holding breath, and I'm like, there's no way my fat ass would have survived.
I know, man. I'm like, you give me like 20 seconds tops.
Yeah, I hear like people like, oh, I can hold my breath for 2 minutes. How?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Anyway, I didn't see it until I think it was last season, Joe Bob. Well, not the most recent season, but the one before that.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, that's right. You're new to it, but you loved it, right?
Yeah, I'm newer to the Giallo films than you are, but I do enjoy them.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Deep Red.
And a 36 year anniversary, Children of the Corn.
Again, yet another great story from the book Night Shift by Stephen King. That book may be the greatest collection of horror short stories ever told, in my opinion. The short story was originally published in an issue of Penthouse, actually. This 1984 film actually is not the first adaptation of the story. There was a short film called Disciples of the Crow, which was released a year earlier in 1983 and was actually more faithful to the source material. The 1984 movie changes a lot of things about the book, like the fact that Bert and Vicky hate each other in the book and they're on the verge of divorce. In the movie, they aren't married and are very happy.
What did you say the name of the...
Disciples of the Crow.
Yeah, that sounds way cooler than Children of the Corn.
Dude, doesn't it? I know. Like I'm like, and it's creepy too. It's actually really creepy.
I have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, my nephew is actually named from this movie, Malachi.
Oh shit! Was that what he was like? The name was chosen from the movie.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's spelled different, or I think my sister was going to spell it different, but it ends up I think being spelled the same way from the movie.
Okay.
But Yeah, and also, Linda Hamilton said he really like hurt her in the scene where he's like grabbing her by the face and
Oh,
yelling
yeah?
Outlanders. She said he was just so nervous he was like digging his fingers like into the side of her face.
Oh shit, made that shit believable, I guess. But yeah, it's like serious question, dude. Like, has there ever been like, is there anybody our age that this movie didn't scare the shit out of when we were kids?
Yeah, you would figure like,
Evil little fucking kids, man.
why should we be scared? Like we were kids, like at least when I was watching it. Like,
Right.
the first kid, we'd be cool.
But then you realize, nah, unless you join the cult, you wouldn't be cool.
I mean, like,
You know?
sure, I'm in the cult, guys, and like just make them think you in it.
Well, yeah, until they make you step up into a sacrifice because they realize you've been slacking the whole time, and then you're like, nah, I'm out.
Well, that bought me more time than if I just flat out didn't join the cult.
Well, check this out. There's something else that was different about the movie to the book was especially the ending and the story. Both Bert and Vicky die. Vicky actually gets her eyes removed and is sacrificed to he who hides behind the rose. So the short story is much darker and better overall. But I do love the movie. I grew up on it. You know, I mean, it's still a classic. It's always going to be a classic.
Yeah, it's like some of the Stephen King movies I watched growing up that were different than the book. I don't hate them because I didn't know the book before I watched them, and I grew up like Shining, Children of the Corn. Like a lot of his works got changed here and there, but yeah, I loved watching like all Stephen King stuff when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah, absolutely same, and I still do.
I feel like the first one I saw was It, which absolutely terrified me.
The Tim Curry one, yeah, absolutely.
It was either that or Pet Cemetery. And Pet Cemetery creeped me out as a kid too. Like Gage when he came back.
You know what scared me the most about Pet Sematary? I lost sleep. It was one of those movies that I actually lost sleep over as a kid. And you would believe it or not, it wasn't Zelda the sister and it wasn't Gage. The thing that scared me the most, like legitimately, I wouldn't watch the ending of the movie when the mom comes back, when Rachel comes back home and she's all like half skeletal and like she's got the bullet wound in her head, like she's all bleeding and shit, you know. And
Yeah.
and when I saw that. Or not the bullet wound. I'm fucking sorry. Her eye's bleeding. That's what I meant. The gore bleeding from her eye. That scene scared the shit out of me. Just seeing her, like every time we'd watch the movie, and I would always turn away and not watch the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, the sister definitely haunted me for a long time as a kid.
Yeah,
Zelda,
she
that
is
was
creepy.
rough.
The voice, man.
Well, where do you have it on your Stephen King list of like just the movie adaptations?
I mean, are we counting non-horror too? Because that's essential.
In the horror.
A horror, okay. Well, I would put Misery at number one. Like people say that's thriller. I mean, it's borderline. I'm gonna put it. It's definitely horror. So I would put Misery at number one.
I'd put The Shining, but even though it's not really King's adaptation.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I would say probably. Yeah, after probably three. Probably it'd probably be after it. It'd be three. I'd put it at number two, and then Pet Sematary at number three. But I'm a big champion of Sometimes They Come Back. I love that movie. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Used to watch it all the time on HBO and like VHS.
Yeah, we got a little out of the weeds there on Children of the Corn.
Stephen King talk. It happens.
Yeah, he's got too much shit out there not to just end up talking about all of his works.
Ooh, maybe there's a Stephen King episode coming up.
We could. I was just thinking that definitely could be ranking Stephen King.
It could do a themed month.
Then quit halfway through. But anyway, I think that'll about wrap that up here. I think it's time to get on the PPA.
Puff Puff Ask.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
And now it's time for Puff Puff Ask, the segment of our show where we answer questions that you, the listeners, write into us on social media at highonhorror420 or email at highonhorror420@gmail.com or on the website highonhorror.com. This one comes from Instagram. I do not have a name of the person, but it was the page Fire Gas, which is obviously a weed page. They reached out to us and said, hey, any chance you could recommend some must-see disturbing horror movies from 2019 through 2022? Appreciate it. I gotta say that there hasn't been a lot of disturbing films in that time span. At least in my opinion, it takes a lot to disturb me. It's been kind of slow in that element, though, or in that area. Everything nowadays tries to be disturbing, but only a few are. I would recommend Incident in a Ghostland and The Lords of Chaos. But they're both from 2018. They're not from 2019, sorry, but they are a little underground, especially The Lords of Chaos, and will take you by surprise and are definitely disturbing and even brutal. And more recently, though, a 2019 movie that I have for you is Saint Maud, and that's a slow burn that'll fuck you up. Brilliantly acted and just disturbing as hell.
Yeah, Saint Maud's a good one. I've heard nothing but good things. There hasn't really been too many like truly disturbing films that have come out in that time frame. I like The Lodge. I feel like
That's a good
I feel
one.
like it's still kind of flown under the radar, and I like nobody's really picked up on it. And that was 2020. I
Yeah,
think.
man, it was good. It was really good.
Alicia Silverstone was fucking really good in it.
Agreed. Yeah, she was.
And the kids, it's well acted, and it really does fuck with your mind because it just you think you figured it out, then you're like, no, I'm wrong. Then you
Yeah.
think you figured it out, and at least for me, eventually it got back to no, I should have stuck with the first thing I thought because I was right.
And the dad's new girlfriend after, Alicia Silverstone kills herself. The dad's new girlfriend, who like I forget the actress's name. I'm terrible with names. If you've listened to this podcast consistently, you know that I am fucking horrible with names. But that chick was a good actress, man. She was just batshit crazy. Like,
Yeah.
but oh my god, but those kids drove her to it.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like at the same, like how can you like you want to hate her, but at the same time you're like, damn man, she fucking tried. That's like a drug addict trying to recover from drugs, and it's like somebody just dangling crack in front of their face nonstop. Like you can't do that, man. It's always gonna end badly, and it did.
And another one is from 2019. I fucking love this movie. I talk about it any chance I can.
What is it?
The Lighthouse.
Here we go, The Lighthouse again.
Oh man, I fucking love that movie.
I mean, I would categorize that as disturbing. I would recommend getting baked to it as well.
Yeah, I saw it like 3 times in theaters.
3 times, damn.
Yeah, dude. I think it was towards the end of my movie pass run.
And that was the movie that got you to like turned on. That got you a little Robert Eggers chub, right?
Yeah, then because I never saw The Witch because you said you hated it.
I still hate it.
I went and saw The Lighthouse and I'm like, damn, that was really fucking good. So I went back and watched The Witch and I'm like, oh, what the fuck Drew's talking about? I love this movie.
Whatever.
I'm looking forward to The Northman.
And that looks good, man. Definitely, especially with Eric Skarsgård. He's a dedicated actor. I think he's going to do a good job, and he's in incredible physical shape for that role.
And with The Lighthouse, I like Willem Dafoe. I was a little apprehensive first seeing it with Robert Pattinson, but that's a movie got me to change my opinion on Robert Pattinson, and I saw a couple other of his movies, and they were fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
after Twilight, the guy's done good work. I'm excited for the Batman, I guess. Well, at this point we're recording, it's not out for another day or so, but it'll already be out by the time we release this. So,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
yeah, The Lighthouse. It's like The Shining set in the late 1800s.
in a lighthouse.
At a lighthouse, yeah, on a rock, and Willem Dafoe just gaslighting Robert Pattinson.
Dude, his acting in that movie,
Oh, Willem
man,
Dafoe's
he
so
plays
good.
such a crazy bastard. Like, isn't there stories about on set about how like Robert Pattinson was actually scared of him or something?
Well, I heard that the curse after Robert Pattinson was not fond of his lobster, and he curses him with that long rant. Apparently, the rumor is that Willem Dafoe did it in one take.
Oh, damn.
But apparently they really didn't talk a lot on set. It was just...
Okay.
Apparently they were supposed to have rain machines, but it just ended up raining for real the entire time they were like there.
Well, at least it didn't ruin any shooting days. That rainy days always like interrupt shooting days, and
Willem Dafoe's such a character of like an old-timey sea captain.
totally.
Like, they even
The
pointed out
stereotype, man.
in the movie, like,
Yeah.
he just speaks in these yarns and ridiculousness.
yeah, and he's very stubborn, and he's an asshole, and he's brash. But I want to say real quick about what you said about Robert Pattinson. I feel the same way about Daniel Radcliffe. he did a good job, man. Everybody thought that he was going to be Harry Potter forever, and he's actually like done some serious things. Like he's even playing Weird Al in the upcoming
I
biopic.
saw that.
So it's like, it's cool to see that these guys that people thought, were just like, heartthrobs or just, people from books for kids, and they're actually doing something. The true talent stands out. Kudos to those guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, who was clamoring for a Weird Al biopic? I'm going to see it because I love Weird Al.
But who was clamoring
I did
for
not
it?
think that would ever be a thing that got made by Hollywood.
Right, I know. It's crazy. I don't know, man. I hope it's funny. I don't know. Are they going to make it like a dark drama, or is it going to be like hilarious? I hope it's hilarious.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Anyway, I'll get on to our second question here from Jerome from Coweta, Oklahoma. And I wanted to know what are some of our favorite horrible collectibles that we own. I'll go first here because I don't have nearly the amount of stuff you have. I've only really recently got into collecting stuff.
I know what you're going to say,
and
though.
going to cons. It's either got to be the Halloween one that I got signed by James Jude Courtney.
The
and
tin
Nick Castle.
poster, right?
Yeah. And James Jude Courtney was a big fan of it too, because he had never seen it. But it was just off Amazon. It's a poster it was for a promotion for the Alamo Draft House for an anniversary of Halloween. That, and I would say probably my Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake like plastic sign that I have. Kane Hodder and I think CJ Graham. I think that's all I have on there.
I knew you were going to bring up the Friday the Camp Crystal Lake sign because that thing is badass.
But as for funniest things I have written on something, it has to be my Chucky figure. I got from Child's Play 2, I got Brad Dourif to write Goddamn Women Drivers. I didn't think he would write it. I asked him and he just went, sure. And just like wrote it. And I got Christina Leese, who played Kyle, to write They Taste Like Shit, okay? To which she went over to Alex Vincent to tell him that's the first time she's ever been asked to write that on anything.
I remember that. She
I asked her and she was like,
yeah.
nobody's ever asked me to write this. And I was like, hey, the whole cigarette thing? Like, that's the first thing I think of when I think of her character is like the laundry scene. And she tells Andy to hold the cigarette.
Yeah, I remember her leaning over to Alex Vincent and saying that. She's like, I just signed, like, these taste like shit, and
she was like, nobody's ever asked me to write that.
he didn't seem too interested. He kind of just gave her the eyebrow raise, like,
He
that's
was thinking about that
interesting.
Jersey 33 later.
Jersey 33. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I do. I have a bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and list things off and try to brag or anything.
I don't think we have enough time.
No. So, I honestly, right now, it's got to be. I have the Judith Myers. I have a prop.
I figured that was going to be number one. If
Yeah.
I had that would be my number one. I think it's fucking badass. We're looking at it right now in the corner of the room.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a prop replica of Judith Myers' tombstone from the original Halloween, and I have it autographed by 5 cast members. It's Nick Castle, the Shape, Will Sandon, who played Age 6 Michael, Sandy Johnson, who played Judith, Mickey Yablans, there we go, who played Richie,
Yeah.
right? And then I have, of course, PJ Souls.
That was from the most recent one. We met her together when you got that signed.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be my favorite, is the tombstone, because that's one of those things where I hope it's with me forever, and I hope it's buried with me.
Yeah, I can't blame you. That's pretty awesome.
Could you imagine if we, like, when we get High on Horror its own studio and we set our shit up, we'll have a fucking autographed Camp Crystal Lake sign and a Judith Myers tombstone?
That's
Are you
pretty
kidding me?
awesome.
That setup's gonna happen. It's gonna be right fucking behind us too. All right, well, don't forget to write in your questions to us on all social media platforms at highonhorror420, or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com, or visit our website at highonhorror.com and reach out to us there. Now let's talk about the 10 best or craziest things that have happened around the medical field. Death RX is what we're here to talk about. Doctors, mad surgeons, nurses, killer babies, the works. This is our top 10 list of the best movies that involve or showcase the medical field in one way or another in a horrific way.
Starting off with number 10 here from 1990, Frankenhooker. I mean, I think this could have even been eligible for our Love Gone Wrong episode.
Yeah.
Frankenhooker is the story of Jeffrey Franken, a scientist who buys an automatic lawnmower as a gift for his fiancée, Elizabeth Shelley. That same automatic lawnmower ends up killing Elizabeth, and he uses his knowledge of circuits to rebuild his fiancée. His plan, though, to get body parts, he's going to harvest them from New York City prostitutes.
Knowledge dug for you listeners out there. It took actress Patty Mullen 3 hours a day to get into the Frankenhooker makeup. Also, in the opening of the film, that's director Frank Henenlotter's hand you see drawing all over the body layout. This is like my favorite Henenlotter film, bro.
And if you're thinking I shouldn't see this, Bill fucking Murray in 1990 said if you see one movie this year, it should be Frankenhooker. Apparently, he was a big fan, and they wanted to get his endorsement for it, and the director was worried that they would abuse Murray's friendliness, and then eventually they met up, and that was the quote he gave in favor of the movie.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, like I said, Frankenhooker is my favorite Henenlotter film. I like most of his movies. But Frankenhooker is just nothing but fun. It's a feel-good movie, man. Like it's just one of those ones that you just put on just as a background movie, or you could put it on to actually just sit down and relax to it, or watch it with Joe Bob doing commentary on it.
It's not a mind bender.
No, it's not, but it is very fun, and it's hilarious, and it's easygoing. And it's funny because Frank Henenlotter said that he never approached this movie as a horror film. He always approached it as a comedy. And I mean, it's a pretty funny way to look at it, because I never would have thought that there wasn't the intent of a horror movie behind it, but it definitely works. I mean, our boy Gabe Bartalos did all the effects, listen to our Skin Deep episode if you want to hear more from him.
Yeah, Frankenhooker's just the easy one to put on, and like you said, just something you can even throw in on the background. And his fiance is happy at first she's brought back, but then is not happy when she finds out how she was brought back.
Just like Frankenstein, just not happy to be back, especially to look like shit.
And then the spare hooker parts, how about that? They all come together.
when there's all the severed limbs, and they're still trying to fucking hit the crack pipe.
Yeah, I forgot about Super Crack in this movie.
Yes,
I forgot all about that. I don't know. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, Super Crack's a real problem in New York City.
At least it was back at the time of this movie being made. That's for sure.
I think Super Crack's the same thing that got Rick James.
Oh, bird. All right, now let's get into our number 9 film. At number 9, we have American Mary from 2012. American Mary is a Canadian horror and is the Soska sisters, Jen and Sylvia Soska. It is their masterpiece. It's the film that got them recognized, and it started with Eli Roth. Telling them basically, make a script about a medical student. And they did, and it worked. It's about the story's about a character named Mary Mason, played by genre favorite Catherine Isabel from the Ginger Snaps series. And Mary is struggling. She's a struggling medical student who gets lured into performing body modification surgeries on the black market for money to survive. Eventually, she uses her skills in torture. She uses her skills to torture people who wronged her and use her skills for the wrong reasons and the wrong things. And from there, shit spirals out of control. It's a solid movie and a great ending. Check it out.
The song Ava Maria is played 3 times throughout the movie with increasing levels of skill. An amateur at the very beginning when Mary's a student, intermediate, and then professional recordings later as Mary's skills improve. And the increasing complexity of the song also mirrors Mary's development as a surgeon. Dude, this movie, whenever, like, body stuff, sometimes body horror is just not for me. Like, I mean, the modifications, especially the stuff that Ruby once done to her, like having her vulvas, like, partially sutured shut, that stuff was rough.
Yeah, and the whole, like, making somebody look like Betty Boop, it's basically, it's art. The movie's about, expression of who you are. It's about, like, just cutting free, and if you want to make yourself look like the Cheetah Woman, or Betty Boop, or whatever the fuck.
The Cheetah Woman.
Yeah, basically, Mary would do it for a price, and that's where she finds her niche. And
she's good at what she does.
She is good at what she does, but again, when you get involved in that black market and that back alley shit, there always come shady things. And yeah, like I said in the synopsis, she uses her skills to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to torture some dude that did something wrong to me. And from there, it gets a cop involved, and it's definitely a story about someone who started off just trying to remember she's getting calls from the school that like her payment didn't go through. Like she's just trying to make it, and she finds a way. Hey, let's
one way to pay. That's one way to pay the student loans, I guess.
Right. I will pay to basically, I will pay to help do body modification, and she goes against what her teachers are telling her to do, and kind of just takes over and does her own little side hustle.
Yeah, Catherine Isabella does a great job in that. I mean, she's done other stuff. She's been labeled as a scream queen, the fucking Ginger Snaps movies. I think she did all of them. I think. Yeah,
she was in all of them. Yep, she was in a brief in Ginger Snaps too. She's in it briefly in like little flashbacks. She's kind of Harry to Dexter in that film.
Yeah, and apparently she in 2003 she almost died from a viral infection.
Oh, no kidding.
Apparently it wasn't revealed until 2020. She had a lung collapse, kidney failure. She fell into a coma and had to be treated with a ventilator. And apparently she kept that from everybody until 2020, and she posted that on her Instagram.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. I don't know what exactly happened. But.
Yeah, and let's not forget either, though, that she was in Freddy vs. Jason. And it's pretty funny because I won't bring up who my buddy is out there who's listening to this. I won't bring his name up, but my buddy, we're talking about Freddy versus Jason. He randomly just goes, "Man, fuck that movie," and I'm like, "What? You're one of the haters of Freddy versus Jason?" He goes, "Nah, man." He's like, "Man, Catherine Isabel had a body double step in, and that ain't her titties. It shows in the shower." And I was like, "So you hate the movie because you didn't get a glimpse of Catherine Isabel's boobs?" I mean, I guess there's people who hate movies for worse reasons. I didn't know
that. You shattering my dreams too.
Oops. That should have been a knowledge nug.
Yeah, knowledge nug for me.
That is not Catherine Isabel's boobies.
I think now we can move on to number 8. Damn, I'm too high. All right, number 8. This number 8, right?
Correct.
Okay. Number 8 is from 2016, Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Jane Doe.
The movie stars Brian Cox and Amelia Hirsch as father and son coroners Tommy and Austin Tilden, who experience supernatural phenomena while performing an autopsy on an unnamed woman. I have to say, this is one of those movies you really can't talk a lot, almost kind of like The Ring, in a way where anything you talk about, you're just giving spoilers as you're going.
Agreed. And it's still like such an underground movie, you don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it. So it's it's walking on eggshells.
And I mean, I'm fans. I really like Brian Cox. I think he's one of the most underrated character actors. That guy can do horror, he can do comedy, he can
does that shit with
everything.
With conviction. He's believable.
Like he's doing this, but then he's also the fucking chief and Super Troopers.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Or he's the bus driver in Trick or Treat. Like the guy, he's just a great actor. I think he's
Stryker in X-Men. Playing, in the comic book movies and X-Men 2, he's fucking Stryker and he does a great job. And he steals the show. He steals the fucking show in that movie. Here's a knowledge nug. Okay, so director Andre Ovredal, I hope I'm saying that correct, he cast Olwen Catherine Kelly as Jane Doe because of her yoga. She did yoga and had an ability to control her breathing and body. So he cast her as he cast her as Jane Doe, and he also said that she had the most difficult role due to laying there naked the whole film, but she made everybody comfortable on set to work with.
And it was also his first English language film as well.
Correct, right.
But also, I was going to say Amelia Hirsch is a great actor too.
He is.
The first thing I saw him in was Into the Wild, which I think is an underrated movie.
I just saw that a month ago, man. It's really good. It's really good.
I saw it. It was one that I saw a trailer for, and I was really interested, and then I read the story about the actual, it's based on a true story. But yeah, I thought the movie did real well.
Yeah, Stephen King actually is a big fan of The Autopsy of Jane Doe. He said it scared the shit out of him. And I do recommend, this is one of those movies that you need to watch with the fucking lights out. It scared the shit out of my wife and I when we first saw it. It definitely, it creeps under your skin slowly. It's a slow burn, but it gets under your goddamn skin. Watch it with the lights out, for real.
And get some surround sound.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, well, enough about talking about Jane Doe. Let's get into our number 7.
Jane Doe.
Number 7 on our Death RX list is one that all of you have heard of and have probably seen 1,000 times over. 1985's Reanimator.
Fuck yeah.
In Stuart Gordon's masterpiece, based on the H.P. Lovecraft story, Herbert West's Reanimator, we see a young medical student, Herbert West, invent a serum called Reagent that can bring the dead back to life. Except they come back wrong, Pet Sematary style, but more funny and gory. It stars Jeffrey Combs and the lovely Barbara Crampton. Nothing to not like about this movie. This movie's a fucking 10.
I gave him life. Little knowledge nug here. The first man who was reanimated at the morgue who goes on to kill the dean is Peter Kent. And he was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double on 14 films from The Terminator in 1984 to Jingle All the Way in 1996.
Yeah, that motherfucker swole.
I mean, he gotta be if he playing Schwarzenegger. I want to know how much he made for like all these movies, just like playing his stunt double.
I mean, that's a pretty good run of movies, though. You just
Yeah.
I was a Terminator and Reanimator. I mean, good choices.
Predators in there.
Yeah.
True Lies.
Yeah, I mean, but what can we say about Reanimator that hasn't already been said, though? I mean, it's perfectly
We
acted.
talked about it on Horror History.
It's not even too long. Like, you can't even say the movie's
It's only
fast-paced.
86 minutes.
Yeah, you can't say it's slow-paced or it takes long or it drags. It's right to the point. It's just funny gore. It's like... I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, trust me, if you're one of those people listening and you're like, here comes another thing that I've heard about Reanimator, Reanimator again, and you haven't actually seen Reanimator, you need to trust that people aren't just talking this movie up because it's popular. It's fucking good. Like, you need to go watch this movie. Like, I consider this to be an essential. Whenever like a lifelong horror fan comes to me and they're like, yeah, I just watched Reanimator for the first time, I'm always like, what? Because like, to me, that was kind of like the basics. Like, that's like kind of like where you start. Like, that's a forefather of like the gore and like the fun and the 80s horror, you know, and like, so like at least like that's the measuring stick. I'll put it that way. That's the
Just
measuring
at me
stick.
next time. I didn't see this one till like 2014.
Oh, I didn't know that. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't atting you. I was not atting you. Not at all. Not at all.
Back.
I know your history though. I know you watch your shit. I don't hold nothing against you. I feel you.
in the
You were
apartment.
too busy watching Gianna Michaels.
I mean, yes. Gianna, open invitation. Come on.
Anyway, sorry.
Come on. That's. I don't think that's right English. Anyway, it was back on your couch with that little ass TV in the
Yes.
man cave at the apartment.
Yeah,
That was the
yep.
first time I watched it. But yeah, Jeffrey Combs fucking makes that movie.
Man, you gotta fucking take a shot at my little TV. I was broke.
No, I mean you had the bigger TV in the living room, but you had that little tiny TV in the man cave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked about Reanimator. I don't even know what Horror History was. Whatever was the week of October 18th. So go back to that episode. You figure it out. I think it's time to move on to the next one on our list. What the fuck we at? I'm too high to count. Number 7, 6.
This would be 6.
6.
Number 6 on Death RX.
Math's hard. All right, at number 6, and I got to give Drew credit. This one totally makes sense, but when we were compiling the list, it went past me, and I didn't even think about it, but it totally makes sense. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors from 1987. After we had the what have you of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, we're bringing back Nancy and reuniting her with Freddy. This time, Nancy's got some new friends. She's an intern therapist at Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital, and she introduces her new group of friends to the idea of group hypnosis to fight Freddy.
I mean, the deaths in this movie are incredible. Let's Get High.
Best ones in the series.
Which is Let's Get High your favorite, or is it Welcome to Prime
Oh,
Time?
I
bitch?
mean, it's so cliche, but welcome to primetime, bitch. You know how many times I just say that in general?
Well, let's hold on. Let's
Like,
do something
there's no
different.
reason I should, but I've said it to Nicole a lot.
I mean, it's a great line. It works perfect, but let's separate the language or what's being spoken from the kill. What's a better kill, the needles from Let's Get High, or the smashing somebody's head into a TV?
I mean, coming out of the TV and smashing their head into the TV, I'd have to go with that.
Man, nah. Let's Get
Needles. I guess the thing you hated most about Saw 2 was the needle pit, huh?
High. Yeah, it was rough.
See,
That
you,
was
you
rough.
and Kenny, that one didn't bother me that much. I
Yeah,
mean,
that
it
one was
bothered
rough.
me, think about, but like that chick, it looked like Dawn Marie from WWE had her hands in those like Where if you pull, I thought
the
that's
little
way
box
worse.
with the razors. Yeah, no, that didn't
Like
do
I could
nothing
pull
for
the
me.
needles out, dog. I'm good.
I was fine. No, yeah, I didn't care for that. But the whole like glass box with their arms in it. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, didn't
Anyway.
bother me. Anyway,
Dream Warriors.
yeah, this is my favorite. It's always been
Second.
my favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and it always will be. It elevated the series to a height that it never reached again, in my opinion, and it ranks up there as one of the greatest slasher films of all time. Fight me. Knowledge nug here. The only film out of the first 6 to not start with a dream sequence.
Did not think about that, but that is true.
So where does it rank for you?
In the series, we've talked about
We've talked about this, but to our listeners who might have never listened.
I mean, I don't know if it would be a waste to do a Freddy episode at this point ranking the series since people know our favorites, but it's second for me behind New Nightmare.
Okay, so totally. So it's number 1 for me, and it's number 2 for you. So yeah, it's funny because like there are people that are like, I don't like this Freddy, and it's like it's because like that's when it kind of
It's the
started to really
perfect
be
mix.
funny. Agreed.
It's the perfect mix of the one-liners. It feels like 2. I know people like it. I don't. I'll still watch it because it's Freddy, but like I feel like 3 was the culmination of we learned this doesn't work, we learned this does work, and everything just meshed.
Agreed.
And then I feel like you had the same thing with a new Nightmare.
Yeah, with New Nightmare. Yeah, I agreed. It was a culmination of things. Well, the thing is, like, is that Dream Warriors? Though you had mentioned how like you didn't like think of this, and my wife was the one that actually gave me the idea, which surprised me. But it's because the whole movie takes place in like a mental hospital, like a psych ward. So it's totally crazy when you think about it that this movie takes place in in a hospital. Like you said, I don't think a lot of people put that together.
At least this was populated.
Right, exactly. It wasn't some vacant, for some reason, deserted hospital. Like where
Maybe
was everybody
the
at?
most accurate portrayal of a hospital in a horror movie.
Potentially. I mean, like again, real quick,
Even though it was a mental hospital.
where were the staff in Scream 5 in that hospital scene when
Yeah,
David
we've
Arquette
talked
died?
about this.
Yeah. Anyway.
Go back and listen to the Scream episode. We
Anyway,
talked about
yeah.
that.
So this hospital is actually populated. It's done in a realistic sense where there's a real staff. Everybody has their own issues. Everybody's sharing rooms together. Some people are addicts. Some people are suicidal. It's a totally perfect fit for Death RX because there's more than one reference here. It's not just a doctor death or just a doctor killing someone. Like literally, it's Freddy fucking becoming a nurse and tying people to beds with tongues. And it's just there's so much about like just about the medical field and doctors and everything in this movie. I mean, even the fucking nurse is trying to get the one broad high, offering her drugs
Yeah.
and shit. It's like, there's, you got crooked nurses, you got evil, bitch nurses, you got doctors trying to help people, you got the return of Nancy, you got people dreaming and taking fucking pharmaceuticals that aren't approved by the FDA. I mean, how's it not Death RX?
And is Kincaid the next best character after Nancy? Like, I really enjoy Kincaid.
Dude,
He's
Kincaid,
so
yes, absolutely. I love Kincaid.
He's so ridiculous, but I don't mind it.
Dude, Ken Sagos plays that character too. I was so sad when he died in part 4.
Kick Freddy's ass.
Dude, no, my favorite thing is when they're looking for Freddy. He goes, Kruger, pussy. This man is not. He's like Hulk Hogan. He's just like the Hulk Hogan that will take on Freddy. I love
But
that
then
guy.
but then he realizes he can't really take on Freddy,
Everybody unfortunately realizes that.
except my girl Nancy.
All right, well, now let's get into our number 5 on our Death RX list. At number 5, we have Dead Ringers from 1988. Now, this movie is dead fucking serious. And this is my favorite
Was the
Cronenberg
dead pun
film.
on purpose?
No, but it works. This is my absolute favorite Cronenberg film. In my opinion, this is honestly, truthfully, not just me being a fanboy or a fan of Cronenberg. I truly consider Dead Ringers to be one of the greatest movies of all time. It is absolutely brilliant and twisted in the best David Cronenberg way, where it's not too twisted. It's just done in such a professional way. It stays on track in a grounded way, but definitely it's twisted, and it's expertly acted by Jeremy Irons, who plays the twins Elliot and Beverly Mantle. They're both very successful and professional gynecologists. or gynecologists, as I like to call them. um, but
That's ridiculous.
Beverly is more effeminate, as where Elliot is the womanizer of the two brothers, and he'll sleep with patients and then pass them off to Beverly. They kind of share girls without the girls knowing. Well, one day one of Elliot's sloppy seconds, Claire, takes a liking to Beverly, and Beverly to her, and this leads to a downward spiral of heartbreak and drug abuse. You literally see the brothers mirror themselves. One gets the other one off drugs, but then in doing so, he becomes addicted, so they switch positions. I mean, you could write a thesis on this movie. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, even some, crude... Eventually, some crude, made-up gynecology tools are used and nearly kill a woman, making them lose their medical license. You watch the rise and fall of these brothers, and it's absolutely heartbreaking and disturbing and twisted. The ending to this movie just kicked me in the nuts the first time I saw it. It's so sick and tragic.
And knowledge nug for you here. Director David Cronenberg played a gynecologist himself as an actor in a previous film, The Fly, one of his own, from 1986. Robert De Niro was actually offered the role, but he turned it down because he felt uncomfortable playing a gynecologist.
Strange.
Yeah, that's...
Of all the roles he's played, he'll play Max Cady from Cape Fear, but...
Yeah, but gynecologist, I can't do that. I don't know. De Niro's a weird guy.
Yeah, he is. He is, man. Where would you would you rank this amongst Cronenberg's best films?
Yeah, but you already know what I'm going to say is my favorite.
I agree. Like, we have that whole thing though where it's like favorite versus best, and like my favorite Cronenberg film. This, like I said, I think this is one of the greatest movies of all time, and it is my favorite Cronenberg film.
It's listed as one of I forget who. Yeah, it's listed as one of the top 10 Canadian films of all time.
Yeah, man, this movie is no joke, and I love Videodrome, and I'll give it to you. Like, I understand why Videodrome's your favorite, and to me, I'll even throw you the bone of saying that Videodrome has more rewatchability. I will rewatch Videodrome probably 4 or 5 times before I revisit Dead Ringers, because Dead Ringers is just so much more. It's not as trippy and fun, or even grotesque. It's more just like heavy. It's like watching like Sling Blade. You're watching something where you're just like, God damn, like I really need a break from that now.
Yeah, I actually looked up on the list here. It's listed as 7th from 2015.
Oh, wow.
The other films in front of it I've never heard of. Going Down the Road from 1970. I'm going to mispronounce this because I don't speak French. Liolo from 1992. Jesus of Montreal from 1989. The Sweet Hereafter from 1997. Mon Uncle Antoine from 1971, and I don't even know how to pronounce this. Adderdenjet, The Fast Runner from 2001.
You said that shit wrong, bro. I don't know.
But I've never heard of any of those other movies.
No, and I guarantee you, based on the sound of them, they all sound like feel-good movies. Whereas I guarantee you,
Fast Runner, what is that?
I guarantee you, the Dead Ringers is like the most twisted and it doesn't fit in amongst those. They all sound like feel-good movies.
Oh, it's because that top one is an Inuit film. It's made by an Inuit filmmaker. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Cronenberg really can't do anything wrong, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Now let's get to number 4.
Fout.
Number 4, Eyes Without a Face from 1960. The story revolves around plastic surgery John Redon, who wants to perform a face transplant on his daughter who was disfigured in an accident that was his fault. It's a timeless story about obsession and guilt, and even though the film was passed by censors in Europe, it was still controversial nonetheless. It's another film, again, from the French, who don't fuck around in the fucking horror films they make. And actually, the first face transplant would actually end up taking place 50 years after the release of this film in 2010.
Oh, no shit. Damn. Way ahead of its time. Well, here's a knowledge nug for you, for all you Halloween fans out there. John Carpenter has said that the look for the Michael Myers mask was inspired by the expressionless mask worn by Edith in this film. See, that's another one of these Halloween facts that I go, that makes sense,
But then, why do all these controversial stories involve Tommy Lee Wallace? Because now I'm thinking, they asked Tommy Lee Wallace how it happened, and he's just saying they randomly picked out a mask and he just spray painted it white, like it was just a random process. But now Carpenter's saying that was inspired from that.
Maybe Carpenter threw a line to him, like, make it look like the Eyes Without a Face mask, or maybe once Tommy Lee Wallace did it,
I guess maybe
Carpenter could have been like, oh, that kind of reminds me of
fair.
Edith's
But
mask.
I feel like every
like
story that we go, did that happen? It always involves Tommy Lee Wallace.
And it's because the movie's so, it's like over 40 years old, and everybody's
I'm sure somebody
old
misremembered something.
Yeah, and everybody has, and remember, there's two sides to every story, and when you're talking to the whole cast, it's like, well, there's 10 sides to every story, or however many people there are. But yeah, this is Eyes Without a Face is my favorite black and white film of all time. It's proof that there can be beauty in horror. This movie is so beautiful, but it is so sad and horrific. Christiane is a victim and is constantly let down by false hope. So much so that by the end, she literally just lets the dogs out and wanders off to certain death. She gives up and finds the beauty in dying and quitting after she's been put through so much. Just constant promises of, here, I have a new face for you. He's and the dad, the surgeon, he's killing these women, killing women on the side of the road, or not killing them, but abducting them and then bringing them home, and then taking their faces off and putting them on his daughter to try to fix his mistake and damaging her face. And she can't take watching these other people's lives being ruined anymore. And she can't take, the one time the test does work, her flesh starts rotting after like 2 weeks. So it was all hope for nothing.
She got to talk to Leatherface and get that skincare
skin
regimen.
Lotion. Yeah, that skin lotion that he's representing. But, yeah, she can't stomach, to watch her dad take more faces from innocent people. Her existence becomes a burden to herself, and she seeks release. It's so goddamn sad, and it's touching, but it's also, like I said, got some very horrific scenes. The gore in this movie surprised me the first time I saw it. Like, there's blood, there's a lot of blood, like especially during the surgery scene, at least one of these scenes. And if you haven't seen this, I implore you, please watch it, please.
I was gonna say, you were saying favorite black and white film. And at first I was thinking like Nosferatu, but I'm like, does that really count? That was like sepia. Like,
oh yeah. I mean,
does that even count as like black and white?
Yeah, that doesn't even. You're not even gonna count that. Like, what's your favorite? Why is Nosferatu on your favorite black and white list? Well,
Happy 100, since we did miss the anniversary of it.
Right.
But the recording right now, it's the 100th anniversary.
Yeah, just that's not my favorite black and white movie because that's actually sepia. That sounds like some arrogant fucking.
Yeah, I sound like real hipster about it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
if you
say,
look
yeah.
at the film, it's not technically the black and white that we would know.
Yeah, technically, this is the new what we call sepia tone. It's a whole new
then I was
genre
gonna
that you
say-
oldies haven't heard of because you know nothing about cinema. Because we have
get
the
on my
internet.
level.
We have the internet, and you didn't.
We didn't. I was gonna say, well, if I can't count that, does Clerks count or is nah?
Those Clerks count?
It's black and white.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we're not saying black and white horror or black and white like old. It's just black and white. Yeah, Clerks
Technically,
would
it's
count.
black and white.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely one of the better ones. But probably when I think black and white of my favorite film, just off the top of my head, I think Bride of Frankenstein.
That's amazing. I would say actually my two favorite after Eyes Without a Face is Night of the Hunter. That's another good one. But yeah, Bride of Frankenstein's fucking right there too.
All right. Well, I think it's time to get on to number 3.
3. All right, we're down to the last 3, and here we go. At number 3, we have 2021's Halloween Kills. Michael Myers escapes Laurie's trap, not after getting a little crispy first.
Are we surprised?
And he wreaks his havoc on Haddonfield yet again. This time, the whole town of Haddonfield riles together to stop evil dead in its tracks. Evil dies tonight. Nope. Good try, though. If you want to know more about the movie, go listen to our review. But the reason that Halloween Kills is on our list is because of the character Marcus, who is dressed as a doctor. Obviously, he's a nurse in the film.
He's a nurse, but he's a doctor.
He's a nurse, but he's a doctor. Yeah,
And
that's right.
His wife is a doctor, but a nurse.
Correct.
But a nurse, but as a doctor.
Kind of the way that they played Cameron and Allison played Bonnie and Clyde in the first film, but switched. You kind of got a doctor-nurse switch
fair.
off there.
It's an interesting connection I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I just put that together right now. Who knows?
Pat yourself on the back.
So the character Marcus, played by today's guest, Michael Smallwood, he's not a real doctor. He's a nurse, but he's dressed as a doctor, and his death is horrid. So that absolutely counts. Best kill in the movie.
One of the most memorable.
Yes, we got to count it immediately when you bring up doctor deaths. As of recent, when immediately immediately when I thought of this list and I thought doctor deaths, I thought, oh shit, that knife through like right under the eye, man. That's real doctor or not, doesn't matter. That's a good kill. And this is actually the third film to show Michael burnt by fire, by the way. The first was Halloween 2, and the second was Resurrection.
So, I mean, he could fill in for Freddy. He could take the fire element, him against Jason.
Basically, he can survive fire, yeah.
But knowledge nugget, I got a long one. It's another Halloween that had a hospital in it. The Halloween Kills novelization by Tim Wagner reveals that Tommy Doyle has a Cult of Thorn tattoo, just like Halloween 6's Michael Myers. Wagner writes, Tommy in some ways was the worst of them, including Laurie. Ever since the night that Laurie saved him and Lindsay from Michael, he'd had difficulty controlling his anger. He had a hair-trigger temper and was quick to take offense at any perceived slight, no matter how mild. And he could get irritable, impatient, and impulsive. He got into a lot of fights in high school and even more after he graduated. He drifted from job to job, unable to hold on to one for any length of time without blowing his top at someone, usually his boss, or taking a swing at him. He'd gone through a series of relationships that never lasted long either. No one wanted to be the partner of someone with such a volatile emotional state. Tommy had been in therapy on and off in his late 20s, and while he picked up a lot of psychological tools to help him with his anger, it was by no means fully under control. He was so obsessed with Michael and all things Halloween, he'd gotten a tattoo of the Thorn of rune on his left arm, and when he was anxious, he would rub his hand over it subconsciously.
That's really weird.
Why did that guy feel the need to put that in there? Why did you have to bring the thorn? Nobody wants to curse a thorn. I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that for some reason love those movies. Whatever. You enjoy them. But the majority of us, why the fuck you need to put that in there? There's no reason for that to be in there.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's just absolutely ridiculous.
And you don't think about Halloween 6, but we did have a lot of medical people die.
We did. That's very true. And also, I was going to say, though, but besides Marcus's death, which was like the real, like that death has to make it on this list because it's memorable, it's recent, it's brutal.
The Halloween doctor and the actual doctor both died, and an actual nurse died.
That's what I was going to say, correct. And, let's not forget that, like, a bulk of the whole movie takes place in a hospital. Laurie Strode and Officer Hawkins are in a hospital the whole time, and then so there's that element as to how it can make the Death RX list, because you got two fatally injured people from facing Michael Myers, and then you have Vanessa, Marcus's wife, played by Carmela McNeil, and she just dies one of the, like, her dad, Michael just makes a bullet just ricochet off the door and just blows her brains out. Like,
that's you fucked up.
Yeah, so Halloween Kills definitely makes it on the list, which makes me wonder, are there any other Halloween movies that are going to make it on this list, John?
Possibly, but let's get on to number 2. All right, at number 2, Halloween 2 from 1981.
Shocker.
Michael and Laurie take it to the hospital like Nick Diaz and Joe Riggs after UFC 57. Except this time nobody ended up shitting themselves. If you haven't heard about that story and you like MMA, go look it up on YouTube. We pick right up after the night of the original Halloween, and we get more the night he came home. I mean, it's on the poster. Michael knifes his way through the smallest staffed hospital in history, it feels like. And as short-staffed as it is, 2 of the co-workers who work at the hospital are out fucking in the hot tub, so that leaves even more people to watch over this hospital. There's like one woman responsible for all the newborn babies in this hospital. It's fucking ridiculous.
Very true.
And then her idea is, I'm going to go fuck one of the paramedic guys. And what we'll do is, he says, just leave the door cracked. One can hear it, they cry. And she's like, that sounds like a good idea.
I still want to know how she didn't realize that his fingers tasted like motor oil and ass.
I know. Bro, I remember as a kid, like, even as a kid, I was like, yo, his hands so filthy.
They're dirty looking, like mechanic hands,
Like he was like tilling dirt with his hands.
Well, this was actually supposed to be the
Why
death
is his hands dirty? What was really dirty? I'm trying to think.
I mean, he hasn't showered since the night before. He done fall off a balcony, got shot a couple times.
I mean, yeah, I guess he could have got his hands like with some dirt when he was getting up. But.
Yeah, but also let's talk about, this was supposed to be Michael and Loomis's last dance. They were both supposed to die in this movie. There wasn't supposed to be anymore. Loomis was supposed to be bye-bye. But here's a knowledge nugget for you out there. Although Halloween 2 was not successful, it was not as successful at the box office as the original. But it still outgrossed its competition in 1981. It outgrossed The Howling, Friday the 13th Part 2, and The Final Conflict, the Omen film. And I'd say that I agree that it should have been outgrossed those because it's the best of them.
Maybe Friday Part 2, but I'd still
watch Halloween.
I'd still watch Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anytime, like, as much as we love Friday the 13th, what's the story?
Exactly. Okay, so wait, let me ask you real quick though. What's your favorite death in Halloween 2? Mine's the hammer to the security guard's head. That claw head. Pooh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when we talked with Ian, I mentioned that was one of my favorite in the entire series, or it's up there. So, yeah, that's a good one. That and when the other one when she gets drowned in the like hot bong water.
Hot bong water.
Dude, did you hear about like that? I don't know if you have read like the behind the scenes thing about that tub. That woman like ended up getting an infection because I don't know why they didn't clean it out.
Yeah, you said that on
and
our
she kept
review
getting her
episode.
face dunked, so like she ended up getting an infection.
She got like pink eye or something from
Yeah.
the shit, right? Yeah.
And it was like cold or something.
Yeah, the water was actually cold or whatever. I would have preferred it to just be warm. I mean,
Yeah, and I would have preferred like, why the fuck? Why can't you clean this out? You can fill it with water, but you can't clean it out.
look, all I'm saying to all you ladies out there and guys, whoever, if
No fucking hot tub, she's gonna die.
if your significant other or your partner leaves the room for a minute and then comes back and they come up behind you and you know, oh, it's them, I know it's them, and you feel it's them, and they put their hand on you and you start licking or sucking on their fingers, please acknowledge it's okay if it is them. If their fingers taste like ass and motor oil, call them the fuck out. If this nurse had called Michael out and be like, why the fuck do your hands taste like ass, she'd have been like, oh shit, that's Michael Myers, but she didn't. She I feel like she had to have known that they tasted like, you can tell they taste like ass, so watch the movie. And I just feel that she could have, if she was honest, and just been like, hey bud, like, you know, like, what's wrong, why your hands taste like that? It would have saved a lot of time than her trying to be polite and just toughen out the
either
job.
way, she dying because she ain't getting away.
I mean, true, but I mean, she wouldn't have to taste butt fingers.
But maybe, but maybe she figured out and just like elbow into the crotch and try to run.
Yeah, maybe.
That's about her only chance.
That would have been her only chance, but then she gets boiled in bong water.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's time to get on to number one.
All right, here we go. I wonder if any of you listeners out there have picked up on what you think number one could be. We did drop a little hint of it at the beginning, but for all of you out there who are familiar with crazy shit happening in hospitals, you should know what this number one is, or you're gonna definitely know what I'm talking about. And here we are at number one on Death RX. Could number one be any other than Larry Cohen's It's Alive from 1974? This is my favorite Larry Cohen film, and this movie made our number one spot on Death RX because it's simply unmatched. There are other movies that take place in hospitals in their entirety, basically like Halloween 2 or even Halloween Kills for the most part, or Dream Warriors. But it's, you know, there's only one. And the hospital massacre that happens when the baby is born is unrivaled.
Yeah.
That baby clears the room of doctors and nurses in a brutal and bloody fashion.
Pinky in the brain looking motherfucker.
Dude, I counted at least three dead and bloody as hell bodies in the hospital room where mommy was giving birth. Plus, fourth comes stumbling out into the hall and dies from a neck wound. Now, the premise of the film is that now this mutant baby is being hunted, and that leaves its parents in a bind. They have to decide whether they should destroy their child or save their child. And not only is there multiple brutal deaths in this hospital, but it involves a baby, a killer mutant baby. I mean, this is hospital horror at its peak.
Yeah, and knowledge nug. The movie was ripped off from or inspired by The Exorcist from 1973 and Rosemary's Baby from 1968. Obviously, but also from 1946's Ray Bradbury horror story, The Little Assassin, about a homicidal baby who kills off its parents.
And the sequels are not very good or worth it. They're not worth the time, unfortunately. This series reminds me a lot of the Basket Case series. Speaking of Frank Henenlotter, they somehow made a series out of what should have been a one and done movie deal. And the sequels are just nothing to desire. They increasingly get worse and kind of just further and further off point, and they become more hokey and funny. And as John, there was nothing funny about the original, correct?
No.
Yeah, they become kind of totally like just parodies of themselves, and
the
it's just not
third
worth
one's
it.
called "It's Alive: Island of the Alive."
That was the first movie, the first one I saw in the series because I had it on VHS, and I was like, "This is ridiculous," and it made me like scared to go back and visit the other ones for a while. And then I was like, I heard, no, it's definitely, the first one's definitely more serious in tone. It's iconic, and then I read about it, and I saw it on like an AMC thing where it was like the hospital scene in that movie, and that's why when we said Death RX, I was like, oh shit, do we get to finally talk about the mutant baby fucking terrorizing a hospital?
Have you ever seen any of the novelizations? Or heard about them?
Read them? You mean no? I've never. No, I know that they're based on them, but or that there are books about them. I don't know if the movies are based on the books or if the books came after the movies.
Well, the
but I know they're out there.
novelizations came after.
Okay,
but
yeah.
apparently in the books they expound upon the dangers of various prescription drugs administered to expectant mothers in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
The use of fertility drugs and indirect use of pesticides on people. In the story, the mother of the first mutant child had a history of taking combined oral contraceptive pills prior to planning her second pregnancy, whereupon she instead began taking an inadequately tested fertility drug to facilitate the contraceptive of the conception of her second child. So they added some more to the novel, but the design's great for the big throbby brain. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it is. The little baby is just creepy as hell, and throughout our social media this week, we're going to have little facts about this movie popping up, so make sure you tune in. There's a lot of cool behind-the-scenes facts about this movie, and it's just one of those movies that's always going to be iconic, and it's always going to stand out. And it's one of those ones that kind of just goes under the radar for a while, and you don't hear about it. You don't hear It's Alive being brought up very much anymore. But when someone brings it up, does bring it up, you remember, everybody's like, oh shit, yeah, It's Alive, that fucking killer baby, with the Rick Baker baby design, like, it's awesome.
Did you ever see the remake?
I did, and I was not a fan. I was not a fan. Definitely not a fan. Did you see it?
I haven't, and I've heard. Oh, the best I've heard is okay. But Larry Cohen hated it. He said it was a terrible picture, beyond awful. I'd advise anybody who likes my film to cross the street and avoid seeing the new Enchilada.
No, I will say that, man, I'm probably not going to get the date right on this one, but there's a movie I think from 2000 and maybe 2006 to 2008, and it's called Grace, and it's about a baby that is basically born dead, and the mother like wills it back to life. And like the baby is like a zombie though, like it needs like human flesh and like blood to like survive, and it's this woman trying to keep this baby alive. So like that's another really good like killer baby movie for those of you who are interested, but it doesn't really have much to do with hospitals.
I fact checked you, and it's 2009.
Ooh, I was close. I was close.
Yeah, definitely check it out, and like Drew said, we'll have stuff for you from little facts, little knowledge nugs throughout the week. All right, well, that'll wrap up Death RX for us here. Drew, was there any ones that we didn't get to, like maybe an honorable mention you thought about for the list that we didn't put on here?
Yeah, you know what? I guess if I had to pick one, I guess I would go with Dr. Giggles, man. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's definitely been a minute for me. Yeah, one I thought about was the dentist. I mean,
that's a good. Well, are doctors really dentists though?
I mean,
are dentists really doctors?
I mean, ask a dentist if they're a doctor; they'll let you know. But Corbin Benson's great in it. I love them in the Major League movies, and yeah. So just make sure your dentist does not have a bad morning, like catching his wife fucking the pole boy or whatever,
giving him a little head. Yeah,
before he goes to work, and then you're one of his patients, because it's not going to be a good day.
For the sake of, and for you, for all you, for those of you who want to cheat on your dentist spouse or partner, wait till he at least goes to work and out of the driveway before you start throwing.
Yeah, have some common courtesy.
Seriously, because not only are you risking him seeing you, but then he's gonna go take that shit out on his patients, and that's exactly what happened, and that's not fair. Fuck around on your time.
I mean, he had like 3 movies, right?
Yeah,
I don't I did not watch any of the
I don't
sequels.
remember. I watched 2 with my sister. I don't remember.
I
it.
can't imagine. It's like those principal movies. They had to get bad quick.
Agreed. It's like the Stepfather movies too. Like I've only seen the first one and the remake, and the remake was taint cheese.
Well, anyway, ending on taint cheese. I think now would be a good time to wrap this up and get into our interview with Michael Smallwood.
Oh yeah, let's talk to him. Today's guest is a jack of all trades. He's a screen actor who does theater as well. He's also a director and a writer. He's had roles in Detroit Evolution, Halloween 2018 or H40, Halloween Kills, the hit show The Righteous Gemstones, and more. Welcome, Michael Smallwood. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Thank you for taking the time, and it's great to have another East Coast guy. You're from Maryland, right? We're from Delaware.
Really? That's so cool. Yeah, I'm from Baltimore originally.
Okay, yeah, it's about an hour and a half from us.
Yeah. I've got some of my friends. I've got friends here who are from Delaware too. It's really, really cool.
Really, that's funny because Delaware is such a small place.
Yeah.
So what's going on? You're in mid-production of a play right now, correct? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I'm in a production called Ben Butler. This is by a playwright named Richard Strand. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm a company member at a place called Pure Theater. And this is the first full play that I've done since before the pandemic. Actually, since late 2019. The last like play I did, I left the play and went and shot Halloween Kills. And now I'm like back on stage in front of an audience, and it's been going really great. It's just it's based on a true story of these 3 enslaved men who escaped a Confederate fort and made their way to the only Union fort in the area in Virginia, and had a conversation with the general there that led to the basis of the Emancipation Proclamation.
It sounds awesome, and it's great to have somebody on who isn't just a star or think of themselves as a star. Because when you have people who do stage work, that's someone who appreciates the art of acting and the art of just art. So like it's always nice and refreshing to have someone on who does those things, and it's great to know that you're having fun doing it. So you didn't have any stage fright or anything getting back at it after the pandemic.
No, it was a little. A little more nerve-wracking than normally is, because I just wasn't in the groove, and it the first few weeks of rehearsal, I certainly felt like, oh man, okay, I got to get my legs back under me. But once we got an audience in there, once we started hearing people like laughing at the show, because it is a comedy, then I was like, oh, I'm back. Really, the thing I've had to get back used to is like, my stamina is completely gone. So like I go and do the show, and afterwards I come home, I'm falling asleep on the couch within minutes. And I'm like so used to being able to like, yeah, I can do the show. And then, yeah, let's all go hang out after. And I haven't even tried. I've just been like, performance over, I'm home by 10:30, my eyes are closing. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just trying to get my stamina back. I'm out of shape. For live performance.
Yeah, that's understandable. I gotta ask you, because you're on High on Horror. Are you a smoker?
I'm not really. I did a little bit in like high school and college. I'm the exact opposite of apparently everyone else in the world. I smoke and I get very anxious, and so it doesn't relax me at all. So like every couple of times I've done it, I've been like, ooh, no, I feel like I might have a heart attack, and everybody else seems to be having a good time, and I'm stressed out. So I kind of have just, it's something that I'm like, man, that seems cool. Everybody's having a great time. I'm just going to stand over here and not feel like I'm dying.
Yeah, everybody's brain's wired a little differently with that. Have you tried edibles or anything else besides smoking?
I had an edible once at Dragon Con, like many years ago. A friend of mine gave me a Rice Krispie Square, and I don't think there was much in it because I don't remember feeling really anything happening. it's certainly like edibles are something that I've certainly been like open to trying. Over the last few years, I've been like, oh, I'd be certainly interested in doing that. And then there's been a pandemic, and I'm not hanging out with people enough to even make that happen. So yeah, it's I am a failed smoker, as it were.
Well, obviously you've been in the Halloween movies, so are you a horror fan?
Yeah, I really am. For a long time I wasn't. I'm in my mid 30s. I was a teenager in the 90s. So obviously, like, I came up with Scream. I came up with the 90s slasher movies. The Scream movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. There are no bad Scream movies. I will watch them all. I will defend Scream 3 to the ends of the earth. That's how much of a Scream fan I am. But once we hit like the early 2000s and like basically from Saw forward, I was like, oh, I kind of hate this genre now, because Saw like really turned me off for horror. And then I saw Hostel like right after it, and I was like, okay, great. I just don't need to watch any more horror movies, because this whole genre is now a mess. But I will say that like movies like The Descent really started to get me back in. I don't really do like ghost movies, like anything that is about like hauntings or demon possessions. Like I have such a hard time even like suspending disbelief enough to even enjoy the movie. Like the minute a character walks on screen and goes, "There's a ghost," I immediately go, "Well, it's not a ghost," and then I'm like, okay, now I can't watch the rest of the movie. So like, but like I said, I've especially the last few years, things like the eyes, the eyes of my mother, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, It Follows. Like a lot of the horror movies over the last 10 years, I've really been into. I absolutely love like Raw. I loved. I like His House from 2 years ago was one of my favorite movies of the year. Like, yeah, I can say that I'm like into horror now in a way that I really wasn't for a long time in the early 2000s.
So was Saw like one of the first like horror movies that really got you interested in horror? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I meant Scream.
Got me out of,
you had mentioned Scream. I meant had Scream. Was that one of the first movies that got you into horror?
I was a kid before that, so like I'm the early horror movies. Obviously they're scary because you're a child and they frighten you. To this day, I saw part of one of the Hellraiser movies as a kid, and I had never rewatched them because I was so freaked out. So like I have no idea. Like the Hellraiser movies are a franchise that I have never seen a full one of them because I saw part of one as a child and was like, nope, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. I don't want to watch that anymore. I should probably watch them. I'm an adult now. But Scream is the first like horror movie I remember like really being in love with, like watching it repeatedly. I remember scouring the early days of the internet for information on Scream 2 and 3. I watched them every time they were on, owned the VHS copies. Like that was probably the first like horror movie that I loved. That was like my favorite horror movie.
Yeah, the Hellraisers, if you do go back and watch them, you really only need the first two. After that, it's kind of all downhill.
Okay, all right, I'll keep that in mind.
And before I get you over the Drew to talk about Halloween, you're a fan of pro wrestling. What are your thoughts on current wrestling? Who's your favorite of all times?
Ooh, these are two very big questions. The easier one to answer, my favorite wrestler of all time is Bret Hart. I grew up on Bret Hart was my favorite when I was a kid. He's still responsible for a bunch of my favorite matches. I can go back and watch them anytime. Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler of all time. What do I think of current wrestling? Like, look, wrestling is one of my favorite art forms. It's one of my favorite forms of storytelling. Even if I get like sick of it or fatigued with it, every couple of decades, I find a period of like a year where I'm like, I don't really want to watch this right now. I'm just going to tune. I'll check in every so often, but I'm not going to watch every week. But it's like I'm never going to not be a fan of wrestling? Like sitting down and watching a wrestling match is some of my favorite forms of live theater, man. Like I absolutely love it. I've been to 2 WrestleManias so far.
wow.
I will definitely go to more of them. My wife and I are both huge wrestling fans. One of my best friends from high school is a booker for a promotion in South Carolina now, and has actually had me do color commentary with him for like his YouTube
Nice.
wrestling show, and which was such a blast. Oh, it was so cool. Like, I got to do that. This poster right here over my shoulder is from a play I did that's about professional wrestling. That's why I have this luchador mask. So like I've been trained a little bit. I've taken some power bombs in my day. Listen, I love pro wrestling, and I always will. Like it's a show I'm always gonna have a special place for. It's the career I wish I could have had.
Yeah, we're around the same age, so yeah, Bret Hart was like the first wrestler. Him and I guess like late '80s Hogan growing up were like the first 2 that I really liked. And I mean, is there any era better than the Attitude Era?
Yes.
What?
I honestly think yes.
Which one?
100%. I would argue the Ruthless Aggression era is better than the Attitude Era. Like matches were better. The Ruthless Aggression era had Kurt Angle. The Attitude Era didn't had the better version of Kurt Angle. I should say the Attitude Era did have Kurt Angle, but like Ruthless Aggression has Kurt Angle at the top of his game. Shawn Michaels is back. It has like mid 2000s Undertaker. It has Edge, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, JBL. I could go on, but like Ruthless Aggression era, like the Attitude Era is remembered fondly, but like God, try and go back and watch any of it. It's all so terrible. Like every match, unless it's a main event, is 6 minutes long. Like people like title changes are like every fucking 15 days. Like come on, like way too frequent title changes. It is patently, it's hard to watch. It's like some of the segments are like super gross. Like it's hard to watch now. It's like, oh, I was a child. I should not have been watching this segment. Like, and the Ruthless Aggression era is slightly better, but at least like in the Ruthless Aggression era, there's like the people are having actual wrestling matches. Like there are moves. There are wrestling moves in the matches. Like it's crazy. Like it's remembered fondly. I was a huge Attitude Era fan, obviously, but like God, look, if you like sticking with it and then like looking back at it, you're like, oh, this is all trash, kinda. Like if people who are like super fond of the Attitude Era, I'm like, yeah, go back and watch like your favorite pay-per-view. Don't skip anything and see if you're still like, oh yeah, this is my favorite pay-per-view.
It's funny you say that because I've went back and started watching from right after the Montreal Screwjob. And right now I'm in 1998. And there are some matches that I'm just like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to sit through this, even though it's like 4 or 5 minutes.
Right. Like there are 4 or 5 minute matches. You're like, I'm not skip. I can't sit through this. Like that's crazy. Whereas like if you're looking for a better era, like hell, just watch NXT from 2015 to 2019. Like beautiful. Like one of the best eras of wrestling ever. Like there are like the Attitude Era is important and it is what we were raised on, but there are much better eras than the Attitude Era.
Watching the Attitude Era has showed me the New Age Outlaws were not as good of a tag team as I thought they were when I was a kid.
Oh my goodness. Right? They do nothing. Like they were super
never liked
over. Them. What did they actually do?
But the rest of that tag team division at the time is so bad. It's like the headbangers are like constantly like in the title picture. And I'm like, they're not good either.
Yeah. I mean, really, the Attitude Era has, admittedly, some of the greatest, like it has the best main event ever. And everybody in the like mid card was over. But outside of the 3 years that Edge and Christian, the Hardys and the Dudleys were running the show, like tag team wrestling was kind of garbage. The Intercontinental title picture is just people who would eventually be it's just The Rock and Triple H for a really long time. And then the world title picture is just the same 4 dudes for 2 years. Like Rock, Triple H, Austin, eventually Kurt Angle, sometimes The Undertaker. Like that's it, right? Like it's crazy how like unwatchable so much of that stuff becomes now.
And one more, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite match, and why is it Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25?
Oh, it's not. Oh, listen, that match is really good. That match is really good. It's not my favorite match. That match is really good. I love that match. It would rank very high. I think my favorite wrestling match is, I don't know. It might be Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. That's my second
Like
favorite one after
yeah,
WrestleMania
that match
25.
is great. That match is great. I'm still a big fan of Bret Austin WrestleMania 13. Like that is perfect storytelling. Like there are a few wrestling matches that are better told stories than Bret and Austin at WrestleMania 13. I don't know. Like one of my favorite wrestling matches still is like, it's a more, God damn, this match is like really old now, but like Bayley and Sasha Banks at Takeover Brooklyn. Like again, perfect storytelling. Like I have no notes. Like there are very few perfect wrestling matches. There are a handful of them, and like that's one of them. Like, but yeah, I think maybe Michaels and Kurt Angle at Mania 21 is my favorite match. Austin Rock from 17 is one of my favorite matches too. That was like for a long time my number one, because that match is really, really good if the ending doesn't quite hold up anymore.
Yep, that's the only problem with it.
Yeah, and
Which,
yeah, I you know, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that yeah, like HBK was always my favorite growing up. Like he was I liked him since I was literally, I would draw pictures. Like I didn't understand that I wasn't an audience member, and I would hold up like signs in front of my TV, like I'm watching you, you know. And he was always my favorite. So I am kind of biased towards the Attitude Era, because that was like peak asshole HBK, and like there wasn't anybody better than him at that time. There wasn't. And but when I break it down based on what you said, I'm like, in the Ruthless Aggression era, we did have Benoit, Jericho. Like there wasn't that many peers. Shawn didn't have peers like that. And Angle, he didn't have that many peers. So it's like, I think you might have honestly just swayed me. And it's like I've liked the Attitude Era like my whole life, and I'm actually thinking now. And I'm like, you know what? Based on what you're saying, based on match quality, I think I would agree with what you're saying. Absolutely.
Match quality has. I mean, think about it. Like if you look, there's a 2-year span in the Attitude Era where Vince McMahon is the company's top heel, and there is literally no one else. There's a year span where Austin wrestles Mankind at 3 straight pay-per-views, and the matches are about Vince McMahon. Like those matches are about Vince. Like
I actually attended
an
event in Philly between those.
Oh really? Yeah, dude. It's like it's just crazy looking back at some of that stuff. You know, is there
a more ridiculous match than HBK wrestling God?
Listen, I mean, that's outrageous, right? That's crazy. Like, God, man, talk about, and even Vince got crazier in the Ruthless Aggression era. He fought God and won. He's 1-0 against God.
Oh my God. Yeah, so okay, what's your favorite finishing move of all time?
Ooh, ouch. Wow. Oh, how dare you? I mean, oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it anything other than Sweet Chin Music? It's a perfect finishing move. It's super. I don't know. I was always a big fan of the Diamond Cutter. Like, I was a big fan of the Diamond Cutter. I was a big fan of the Sharpshooter. Like, I really liked the Sharpshooter as Bret's finisher. Savage's elbow.
Oh yeah. What about the pedigree or the tombstone? Do you like those like power moves that you need the setups for?
You know, not really. Although I will say, as far as tombstones go, give me Just Incredible's That's Incredible tombstone. I'll take that. I really like this is getting into the weeds, but I really like Kazuchika Okada's Rainmaker as a finisher. Like, I love the Rainmaker. I think it's really cool. I really like Tetsuya Naito's Destino as a finishing move. I think that's really cool. Even though it's like, it's the most impractical finishing move. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, you should never hit that. Why? I don't understand. Every time I'm like, this is such a dumb move, but it's cool. Yeah. Sweet chin music. I think I'll go sweet chin music. It's my favorite finishing move because it's just so sudden. It's so great. You can hit it on anybody. It can be used in a match or in a promo. It can be it's over face or heel. Like it's not one of those moves that's like, oh, you shouldn't be using this. You're a face now, or vice versa, right? Sweet chin music is probably the best finishing move.
You surprised me. I thought we were going to be beefing because at the beginning of this, you said that you were a big Bret Hart fan. So my alarm went off, and I'm like, oh no, he's going to be shitting on HBK the whole time.
Listen,
you're actually giving him a lot of props.
I'm not. No, listen, he's one of the best wrestlers of all time. He's it's so funny because I tell people all the time that like I kind of learned how to act from watching pro wrestling as a kid. Like that's how I learned how to like, you watch wrestling and it's like, okay, well, I got to learn how to sell, right? And so that's everything
Right.
about pro wrestling can teach you about acting. And Shawn Michaels is probably the person. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are probably the people who I most like watched and was like, oh, that's how you tell an audience that something is happening. That's how you like respond. Whenever I'm like in a fight scene or anything like that, like if I'm selling pain or damage, I'm very much like I'm at the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart school. You know what I mean? Like it's like those two guys are how I learned how to like my early acting lessons were watching those two dudes. And like Shawn is like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that Shawn Michaels isn't responsible for some of the best wrestling matches of all time. I am gonna admit that like Shawn in the 90s was kind of the reason that we didn't get some of like there were some great wrestling matches we should have gotten Shawn, but you were being a child. But like it's cool. Like other than that, like yeah, I liked a lot of people, and there were very few people I didn't like watching wrestling. Like very few people who I was like, oh god, I hate this person, unless I just thought that they were like bad at this. It takes it takes me a lot for me to be like, oh no, I hate this wrestler because they're bad at this. Yeah, no, the one I always get in trouble for is that like I have never liked Hulk Hogan.
Me neither.
Never.
And actually, I swayed John
I
on that
did
the
when I
last
was
several
younger.
years.
Oh, as a kid, I was like, as a kid, I cheered for Ric Flair to beat Hulk Hogan at every turn. I was like, anybody who's up against Hogan, great. I hope they win. I hate Hulk Hogan. I hate him so much. He's terrible. I was a weird kid.
All right, well, no, yeah, I was never a fan. John was a fan as a kid, and then over the last like decade or so, John kind of swayed off that. And Gorilla Monsoon said Hulk Hogan didn't know the difference between a wristwatch and a wrist lock, and I think that that's apparent.
Oh yeah, he's a terrible wrestler. Yeah, no, I've never been a Hogan fan. Not once. And I honestly too, I was very much like, this is gonna sound weird, but as a kid, I agreed with Vince that Austin was a bad champion.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, I would be like, I mean, look, Vince isn't going about this the right way, but he's not wrong. Like, Austin's the worst. I was, again, Bret Hart fan. So, like, I was like, Austin's terrible, and I don't know why the fans are cheering for him, and he shouldn't be WWE champion. The Rock should be WWE champion, not Austin.
All right, well, let's move past wrestling now.
I know, right? I know. We have a wrestling podcast. I did not mean to start that. But
no,
once you get me started,
us,
I
we
will
enjoyed
not
the shit
stop.
out of that. Yeah. So actually, my wife is a huge fan of this show Community, and I've never watched it. And I actually recently discovered that you run a podcast with a buddy of yours about the show. Correct? What's that about? Do you guys break episodes down, or what do you do?
Yes. So, this is so cool to get to talk about this. So, Welcome to Greendale is the name of the podcast, and it is a community rewatch where, my wife and I are big Community fans. I started watching the show late in season 1 when it was airing, and was one of the few who followed it all the way to Yahoo and watched all the Yahoo episodes. So, big fan of the show. And a friend of ours, was getting to be 2000 and 2019. So it was like 10-year anniversary of the show releasing, and we wanted to talk about Community. And my wife and I were like, well, we should get one of our friends who's never seen it. Our friend Sadia is wonderful, but has never seen an episode of Community. So what we do is it's, I've watched the show all the way through multiple times. My wife has seen every episode except for the Yahoo episodes, and Sadia's never seen it. So we watch an episode a week and we talk about the episode. We break it down, and we're getting it. We're getting to experience the show from two different perspectives: the perspective of longtime Community fans and the perspective of somebody who is watching it for the first time right now, which is very funny considering how much of Community, like how many jokes from Community became the way we talk to each other on the internet. It's been really cool watching, because like people, whenever anybody talks about the darkest timeline, that's from Community, and it's a thing that everyone talks about. People, Sadia has realized that she has shared gifs and made references that were from this show, and she didn't know it. It's so cool watching somebody, like, especially now, because when Community first came out, it's the early days of Twitter, and watching someone now discover Community and realize how much of the language of Twitter is based on Community. It's really cool. And then, for us, we get to watch the show in a way that we haven't since it was originally airing, which is one episode at a time. Like, Community is a show that I typically put on in the background and binge, and now I'm having to watch it one episode a week. And sometimes, whenever we're on hiatus, I'm not watching it at all. And so I get to kind of look forward to the next episode, and I get to really break down the episodes and like pay attention to them in a way that I really haven't since they were first on the air. So it's been a lot of fun. We're just about to restart soon. We've already recorded a couple of episodes for season 5, so it's been going really well.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually think that I just saw that it's on Netflix, so I'm going to have to go back and watch it, because I would definitely like to listen to your podcast. You're a funny guy, so I can imagine there's a lot of humor, and I don't want to listen to it. I'm not that type of guy that would watch a commentary before I watch the movie, so I'd rather watch the show first, but I will definitely make sure that I go back and visit that, because if you put that much time and effort in to just talk about a show you like, obviously, it's worth it. You know what I mean? Obviously, it meant something to you.
And it's a great way to watch the show, is to go through it with the podcast, right? Because then it's sort of like it gives you this opportunity to sort of appreciate even the bad episodes of Community. You get a special appreciation for them once you watch it, and then get to kind of like discuss it, or hear it discussed, with us. So I think they're a good companion piece to each other.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'll definitely check that out. So why did you get started in acting? How old were you when you wanted to act, and what made you want to do it?
I've been acting since like second grade. Like in second grade, we did a play or winter concert or something, and I got to play Santa Claus, and I've kind of not stopped wanting to perform for people since. But I really got into acting in middle school, and I've always, like I said, I grew up watching pro wrestling. I've always liked performing for an audience, and I've always wanted to play get this opportunity to sort of interpret a big range of different characters and different types of people. So acting has kind of just always been my passion and my career goal. And so I've studied it in high school, studied it in college, and have basically since graduating been working, since graduating, it's so long ago, but like, basically been working as an actor ever since. And that's really kind of how I got started. Just kind of, it's the thing that I have done my entire life.
Oh, excellent. Well, now you're listed on IMDb as Hunky Doctor in Halloween 2018, and then you came back with a bigger role in Halloween Kills as Marcus, the same character, but now you're named Marcus. After 2018, did you know you were going to be back for the sequel? Was that something that was discussed during 2018, or was that something you just got the call on once like the script was written for the sequel?
Yeah, so it was a surprise. When I did Halloween 2018, I definitely thought it was like a one and done thing. And I was like, oh, this will be cool, because now I'll get a chance to like work with David and Roughhouse on whatever the next project is. but I wasn't expecting any more in Halloween. You know, we kind of had that scene and have that narrow that very close call with Michael as it kind of, and then that was it, and it was cool. I was like, oh great, I get to be in a scene with Michael Myers. I got to meet Jim. Like this will be a cool thing that I'll just get to say, hey, I was in a Halloween movie, and then in 2019, like beginning of the summer is when they called and were like, hey, would you be willing to come back, because we're thinking about bringing your character back for Halloween Kills. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, that sounds awesome. And I didn't know, like I didn't know what they were bringing me back to do. No one told me. They just asked if I wanted to come back. So I got that call at the beginning of the summer, and it was like August before I got a chance to read the script and find out what was happening. So I spent like 2 months going, oh, I guess I'm going to be in the next Halloween. And I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't. So like I'm coming up with all these like theories, and my wife, who is a huge Halloween fan, and my wife is like, well, maybe they'll just have you. It's like she's just throwing in all these different ideas for like what kind of weird cameo I could have and stuff. And I was like, I don't know. Like we have no idea what this is. I assumed it would be like a flashback. I assumed they'd do something that was like a flashback to that night, and our characters would be in it as like a nice like Easter egg thing, or like a. I did also have the thought, I was like, oh, they're going to kill me in like the opening credits or something like that. Like that's what it'll be. It'll be something where it's like, oh, there's like a one scene where like he also killed that couple on that night. And it's like a way of setting up how brutal the night was or something in a flashback. That's the kind of stuff I thought. I had no idea until I read the script that they wanted to bring the character back and build on it to like, explain who Marcus and Vanessa are.
Well, John and I and all of our friends, like seriously, and even people we talked to online, everybody thought that you and your wife in Halloween 2018 were Julian's parents. Because then we cut to Julian and he's in the house and he's being babysat. Did you get that from anybody? Any of your friends? Anybody say like, I thought that you guys were the parents of the kid, the funny kid?
So yeah, obviously everyone thought that. It's like, well, okay. So I didn't think it when I was watching the movie or when we were making the movie, because there was never any discussion of that. And it's a different house, right? Like it's not the same house that Michael goes into later. So, but then after the movie came out, after 2018 came out, like everyone started saying that. And I was like, no, that's not, like, no one ever planned that, but I guess so. And then I like would tease people and be like, y'all are being racist. Like just because we're two black people doesn't mean we're that kid's parents. And it's funny because it was something I brought up like when David, when I talked to David about doing the movie after I got, right around the time I got the script, he asked me, he was like, hey, have you heard this rumor that you're Julian's parents? And I was like, okay, so David, I kind of thought maybe you did that on purpose because like, it does seem like it does seem like a small enough Easter egg that you could have been like, oh yeah, that's his parents leaving for the night. Like I was like, okay, I could buy that, and so I asked him and he was like, no, we didn't mean for that to happen. Huh. And I was like, oh, because it really does seem like it, David. Like, it really does. Like he's in the neighborhood, like really does seem like we're supposed to be his parents or that we could be. And he was like, no, you're not. And then that was it. That was just the end of the conversation. Until we got to set and filmed the scene where I'm like, where I make it very clear that we're not his parents.
Right. Well, how did you get involved in Halloween 2018? Did you audition or did somebody come to you with like, hey, a new Halloween movie's coming out. Do you want to be in it? Like, how did that come about?
I went to an audition. So Halloween 2018 was had like an open casting call basically to fill out characters in Haddonfield. And a lot of people went. I did I don't remember the exact scene, but I think it was like people responding, and it's not a real scene, but like it was like a scene that was like citizens responding to one of Michael Myers' art projects with bodies, right? So it's like he's strung somebody up and we're supposed to be reacting to it. And I went in and did it. It was cool. I didn't really think anything of it. I'm pretty sure I came in and read for a different role at some point. But yeah, it was like any other audition really, except for that, like, I couldn't tell people I auditioned for it. And none of the sides that we auditioned with were like actual sides from the movie. And then I was kind of surprised when I got the call to be like, hey, they have a part they want you to play in Halloween 2018. I was like, cool. I was like, that's really cool. Like, yes, absolutely. And I remember getting the script and being like, holy shit, I have this script for the next Halloween. I remember looking at my wife, again, who is a huge Halloween fan, like from, her high school ringtone was the Michael Myers theme, like big fan. And I remember being like, hey, do you want to read the next Halloween movie before it gets made? And she was like, no, I want to watch the movie.
I would have read it. I wouldn't have been able to hold out.
I feel like a lot of people would have. My wife is very much, that's her thing. Like, if she reads the script before she sees it, she does the same thing when I'm doing plays. Like, she doesn't want to read the script at all, because then her creativity starts to take over and she can't see the play for what it is, right? So she doesn't like reading the scripts for things beforehand. So even with both Halloween, she was like, I don't want to read the script. I'm just gonna watch it. Like, don't tell me too much about it. And I was like, okay.
Well, that had to be hard. So we've met James Jude Courtney. John and I have both met him, and I mean, the dude was nice as hell. He's class act, super goofy, a lot of jokes. I have to ask, when he put that mask on, were you intimidated, or was it like, nah, that's the dude I was just joking around with 5 minutes ago, or was it like, oh shit, this dude wants to fucking kill me?
For 2018, when we met him, it was kind of cool because it was like, oh, hey man, what's going on? Like, having, like, he's, like you said, he's such a nice guy. He's very affable. He's very chill. Like, he's a very chill, laid back guy. And then I think I had like a little moment in 2018, like seeing, not him, I didn't see him put on the mask, but like just seeing Michael, like him in the mask, seeing Michael Myers there and being like, oh shit, that's Michael Myers. That's so cool. When we were making Halloween Kills, I actually did get a moment of seeing him put the mask on, and I was like, "That's really neat." Like, I don't know. It's like, it's such a like, not, there was like a huge moment of, well, maybe, like, it's less of a fanboy moment as much as it is like, I do take stock of certain moments when I'm making movies or really anything like that, of like, huh, this is cool. This is a cool thing to take a note of. Just to be like, oh, look where I'm standing right now. And there was a moment of that. It was like less of a fanboy moment and more of like an awe of like, oh, this is my job. My job today is I'm about to try and fight Michael Myers. Cool.
That's badass.
Like, that's like, oh, that's like, that's not Jim right now. Like, that's Michael Myers. Like, look at the mask. That's so cool. And like, like, it's weird. And especially like the night we were filming the car scene, there's a point like where we're like wrestling around. I was just like, I'm like really close to the Michael Myers mask. This is very strange. Like, huh. Okay. It's an iconic moment. All right, cool. What are we doing? Yeah. Okay, great.
Well, your death is absolutely brutal, man, and it's probably my favorite in the film. How long did it take Chris Nelson to apply that makeup?
An hour and a half. Yeah, like roughly an hour and a half. Had to go in, sit down, get the like prosthetic over the eye and over the hair and then actually once that's on, then they have to apply the makeup to make it look like my face again. And it took a while to get into it. It's not uncomfortable, but I can't see out of it, so I can only see out of one eye, and it's got a giant knife handle sticking out of it. So if you raise your left hand too close to your face, like the whole time I was like, well, I can't hit this thing because if I hit it too hard, I might rip the prosthetic off. So anytime I would raise my hand accidentally to try and touch my face or something and touch the handle, I would like panic and drop my hand and stop moving. So then I stopped lifting my left hand at all. I can't see it on my left eye. So basically, at a certain point on set, like once I got back to set for makeup, I just put my hand out and let people walk me around set. Because I was like, there's no point in me trying to do anything else. Like I've got one hand and one eye. Like let's just do this. Yeah, so it took like an hour and a half to put on, and I actually had to put it on the night after, but that was a lesser version of it, like because it was going to be for like background shots, and that took like 45 minutes to put the smaller version on.
And before being in any of the Halloween movies, I know you said your wife was a fan, but are you a fan of the series?
You know, I've taught film history for many years to like middle schoolers and stuff, and Halloween is one of the movies I teach because I think it's important as a stepping stone to not just like modern horror, but it's also a very wonderful evolution of horror movies dating back to like Hitchcock's Psycho, right? So it's one of the movies that I would teach in my film history classes for my middle school students and my high school students. Yeah.
Do you like any of the sequels of the Halloween series, or you just stick to the original?
I like the original one. I really like the original one. I think it's a great movie. I liked Halloween H2O. So even before doing Halloween Kills, the only ones I had seen were Halloween H2O, and part of Halloween Resurrection before I turned it off.
Yeah, I can understand turning that one off.
Yes, before I turned off Halloween Resurrection. That's the one with Busta Rhymes, right?
Yeah.
I'd seen part of that one. But yeah, I had only seen Halloween and Halloween H2O. I still haven't seen Halloween 3. Nope, I've never seen Season of the Witch. I don't think I've seen 4 or 5 either. Still, I own them. We have them upstairs. I should just go watch them. But yeah, and I had seen Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Ugh.
Sorry you had to see that.
Yeah, it's a fine slasher movie. It's just not a good Halloween movie.
That's fair.
Agreed.
Like, I don't know. Like, Michael Myers is terrifying to me because we don't know what he wants.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there's no explanation for why he's killing people. He's just been doing it since he was a child, and he won't stop doing. It seems then strange to me to devote 40 minutes to explaining to me why I want the child Michael Myers to murder a bunch of people. Like, the opening of Rob Zombie's movie spends like seriously like 30 minutes explaining to me, like to the point where I was like, yeah, man, this kid should kill his family. They're terrible.
Exactly.
And at that point, it's not a Michael Myers movie. It's just like, it's a story about like abuse. Like I was like, this is a story about abuse, and like, I don't really want this kid to kill people, but if he's gonna kill anybody, I understand these murders. But I'm now not scared of this monster because I know why he's killing people. Like, you've made it very clear.
Michael Myers is not supposed to be sympathetic.
Yeah, yes. And that's one of the things that I didn't, that's the thing I can't connect to in Rob Zombie's movie is that like, I am not somebody, my friends will tell you, I don't want prequels. I don't really need backstory and explanation for, I don't, if you've established a series of movies with a character, the last thing I want you to do is then make a whole movie dedicated to showing me how we got to this point, because there's no drama in that, right? Like I know where we're going. And in theory, you've already told me all of this. Why are we watching it? What are we getting out of this? Right. But of all the characters that I've needed it less for, I was like, please don't explain Michael Myers to me. Like, because all you can do is make him sympathetic, and that's not what I want. I just want a scary monster.
Yeah. Now, even though you didn't share any screen time with Jamie Lee Curtis, did you get a chance to meet her on set?
Well, her first day on set was one of my last days on set, and then so no, I didn't get to meet her on set. I met her at the premiere. So and she's very nice. She was even without having met her, she sent me a lovely gift after we all wrapped Halloween Kills, which I need to hang. But she said it's really cool. She sent me a butcher knife. It's very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. So she's very sweet, incredibly lovely lady. But no, I didn't get a chance to meet her on set. Like I said, I got to literally they were filming one of her scenes, and I got to set and was like, "Oh, Jamie Lee's here. Oh, I gotta go get in hair and makeup." And then I got back, and she was gone, and that was it. That was the only time we were on set together because if you're not filming with people, you typically don't see them. And I didn't meet the two Johns at all. So those parts of the movies I kind of glossed over because I wanted there to be something in the movie that I didn't know anything about so that I could watch the movie. Right. So the two Johns are the only part of the movie that I didn't know anything about until opening night. I was like, what? What even is this part of the movie? Oh, cool. Who are these characters? Like, I didn't meet them at all. Like, at the premiere, it was like, oh, hey, hi, these two dudes. What are they doing here? And then I saw the movie, and then afterwards at the after party, I was like, oh, hey, y'all were great. Didn't know your part of the movie existed until tonight.
Yeah, Big John and Little John, that whole thing with them is great.
Yeah, like I said, people are like I tell people that's my favorite part of the movie. It's because it's the part of the movie I'm not in and I didn't know anything about.
And the actor who plays Big John, he got his he started working with Danny and them on Righteous Gemstones, and now you did the Halloween movies and worked on Righteous Gemstones. How did you get approached about that?
I just got a call. I got a call to come in and do 2 episodes of season 2 of Righteous Gemstones, and which was very, very cool. I got to, the first time I got to actually work with Danny, who I hadn't worked with before. I'd met him obviously a couple of times, but I hadn't had a chance to actually, work with him. I got to work with Eric Andre, who was very, very cool. Really, really fan of his work. And it was really cool getting to come back on set and work with that the crew over at Rough House are some of my favorite people to work with on camera, and it's super, super great to get to come in, and reconnect with people I hadn't seen since we shot Halloween. And and get to do some very funny stuff on Righteous Gemstones. And some things I had never done before, and I can't talk about that anymore because Sunday's episode hasn't aired yet.
I just got caught up yesterday. I was 2 episodes behind, and I'm excited for Sunday's finale. I watched this show since it's come out. And I feel like it's just such an underrated show. Like, I've told Drew, I've told everybody I know, I'm like, you gotta watch Righteous Gemstones. It's just hilarious. It's a great take on the whole Joel Osteen megachurch type thing.
It's really funny, and I'm firmly in the camp that the entire show could just be Uncle Baby Billy, and I would be loving it because I think Walton Goggins is great.
Walton's so good.
I also think Edie Patterson is the other MVP of the show. I think she is hilarious as Judy. She's so funny. And she's super cool. She's really, she's really nice and really lovely. And then I just love watching John Goodman's character because I've been joking about it with people lately because a bunch of my friends are getting caught up on it. And I've been like, John Goodman is giving he's giving a realistic performance of a pastor going through grief that would not be out of place in an indie movie, but it feels like someone took his character from an award-winning drama about faith and grief and then teleported him into a cartoon with a bunch of morons, and you're just watching John Goodman's character react to that reality.
And like his acting is so good, you almost forget it's John Goodman, and you just think of him as this is Eli Gemstone. Like,
Well, and like there are scenes where I'm like, I forget it's a comedy, and I'm just watching
yeah,
like Eli Gemstone go through some shit, and then I'll be like, damn, John Goodman's really good in this. And then the children will show up and say something stupid, and I'm like, oh right, he's stuck in this comedy. It's like two different tones entirely, and I love it. I love that about the show. That John Goodman's like, yeah, this is a comedy, but I'm about to like act everybody's face off. What's good?
yeah, and like you said, Walton Goggins is brother baby Billy. Like that dude's just such a piece of shit, but I enjoy every time I watch him.
He's Walton Goggins can do no wrong, and that performance as Baby Billy is expert comedy. Like I don't every time he's on camera, my eyes light up. I'm like, please, I'll watch whatever he wants to do. He's so good.
I think I forget what show I watched him on, and somebody had asked him, "Why are you always the villain?" He's like, "Just look at my face. Like I look like a villain." But like every role, like he's just like the worst type of person, but he's so good in everything.
That's true. That's true.
Now working with them with TV versus movie, did you feel much of a difference in the production?
TV's faster. I'd worked in TV before. I was on a CBS show called The Inspectors. It was like my first big TV role, and yeah, TV's just faster. We shot Halloween Kills for like a month, and shooting film is fast too. But like, man, TV is a sprint. Like we've got so many days to film this episode. We've got to film everything for the season at this location right now. So like, it's such a sprint. Whereas like with a movie, you kind of feel like, okay, great, we're gonna spend so many days on this sequence, and we can kind of get it, at not necessarily at your own pace, but like you don't feel like you're just running in a direction like you do with television. Like it is so fast. But like I said, I think working the way Rough House works, it you don't really feel a lot of that crunch. It's very much it's still a very fun, very experimental working space, which I really appreciate.
And we want to thank you for joining us today. And besides your play, do you have any other projects coming up?
Yeah, so I'm currently a voice in a narrative podcast called Maxine Miles, which is like a mystery story, like a young adult mystery story set in the 90s that follows a young girl named Maxine trying to solve the disappearance of her friend. And I play her very put upon uncle, which I really like. I love getting to play this character. Max is such a cool, like, Veronica Mars, Nancy Drew type character, and I really love getting to interact with that. So definitely check that out. It's everywhere you're getting podcasts. It's called Maxine Miles. And then Welcome to Greendale is back March 11th for season 5 episodes. And yeah, after I finish this production of Ben Butler, I will be I'm jumping into a feature film this April called Live Screamers. It's a sequel to a found footage film called Live Scream that was about a guy who is on like a video game stream. He's doing a let's play, and the video game starts killing his viewers. And this one, the Live Screamers, the sequel, which I'm going to be starring in, is about a collective, like a gaming collective that is filming a stream, and the game starts killing them throughout the course of the game. So, so I'm shooting that soon, and then going into another play, and then and for anybody who I don't know when this is coming out, but if it's before March 25th through the 27th, I'm going to be at Horror Hounds Cincinnati as a guest for my first post-Halloween horror convention.
That's
Super
awesome.
excited. So
Badass.
yeah, I'll be signing autographs and taking pictures and stalking the cast of Scream because they're all going to be there. So I'm going to be annoying them, and if you can find me, please come up and say hi.
And where can people keep up with you online about your upcoming projects?
Oh, hey, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at Michael Smallwood Forever, which is where I post about things that I'm doing and where I do my every Monday night on my Instagram stories. I watch a movie and live react to it. And some of them have been great. Like, for instance, last year I did The Invisible Woman, The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, which was so good. Loved that movie. But I've also done some absolute trash, like I recently did Cats and The Rise of Skywalker, and they were both terrible. And I've been working my way through the Twilight movies recently, and I know
Good
pain.
luck.
I know pain. But yeah, so definitely check me out on Instagram at Michael Smallwood Forever.
And again, we want to thank you for being on here again with us today. And I definitely enjoyed being able to talk pro wrestling. That's always a plus.
Had a blast. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Mike. It was a pleasure.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. Thank you again to Michael Smallwood for joining us today. And I think this is the most we got to talk to anybody about wrestling.
Yeah, man.
And we're compiling this a couple days after we talked to him. But thinking back, I still think Attitude Era is still better. I don't think he fully swayed me on Ruthless Aggression, but it's close. I think they're the two best for sure. Anyway, again, me talking about wrestling.
I'm still on the fence, but I do agree with the match quality. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, next week we'll have Lucky McKee here with us, and it's March, but we're talking about May. If you haven't seen May, make sure to check it out before next week. That way you're up to snuff, because we are not good at avoiding spoilers. I think you guys should know that by now.
And if you haven't seen a movie from 2002 by now and you're listening to the review, then it's not really a spoiler. You're just behind.
Yeah, that's sufficient amount of times passed. That's on you. Anyway, make sure to check us out on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at High on Horror 420. You can always send us an email at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Make sure to check out our website, highonhorror.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter, and you get latest episodes and guest announcements sent directly to your inbox. And I think that'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody.